let's get into tea time.
Okay.
We are talking about post-traumatic wisdom,
Yeah.
which is a term. So, first of all, when we did trauma triggers,
Uh-huh.
it happened to be at the same time that Oprah did this special, which was on YouTube. And I cannot think of what it was called, but it was basically talking about the same topic.
Yeah.
So, trauma triggers. She probably had it more eloquently worded than that. But I was like, Oprah copying us? What?
I saw that. I was
But
like,
then,
okay.
but then I was like, of course she's not. She doesn't even know who we are. But it just kind of showed that we were right on time. And so I watched her panel that she did. Kim Whitley was on there, and she had other doctors and things like that. And one of the things that she talked about was post-traumatic wisdom. And I was like, oh, that's good. Maybe we should do a little follow-up. And so this term post-traumatic wisdom is actually one that she coined in her book that she wrote with Dr. Perry, who's a psychologist. The book is called What Happened to You. And so he's saying that post-traumatic wisdom, when he speaks of that, it's referring to the experience where you've been able to get through adversity and where you're now at a safe place in your life. You can look back and reflect and take what you've learned and use that to see the world differently. You use your pain and transform it into power and help other people. And so he also says, I think the most transformative people I've ever known, every single one of them has had personal pain and traumatic experiences that was a core element of who they became. So that is his definition of post-traumatic wisdom. What do you consider to be post-traumatic wisdom?
I just think, just thinking about the words all together, just something that happened to you, occasion, an instance, or something that happened in your life, and how you grew and learned from it. I'm gonna just keep it simple. That's what I think it means.
No, I agree. I think it's when you don't become what hurt you, right? So when you choose to accept it, number one, and then number two, say, okay, what elements can I pull out to take with me, and what do I need to leave behind, right? So what knowledge did I acquire through this experience that I want to carry and I want to share, and what do I want to leave behind?
Yeah, I agree.
So post-traumatic wisdom.
Yes. So I actually was able to watch some of the clips that were posted in our Facebook group. So if you're not following that, you probably should. A lot of great gems is being dropped in the Facebook group. So what, to start us off, like something that stuck out to me was that's Kim Wheatley. What's her name?
Yeah,
Kim?
I think I said Whitley.
What it might be Whitley. I don't know.
I don't know. But y'all, Kim, what was she on? 227?
Oh, no, that's not her.
That's Jack A.
That's Jack A.
And you know what? Her and Jack A, they have always gotten them confused, including myself.
They're like the same person.
I know that she did this like reality show called Racing Joshua, where she adopted
her son.
She adopted this young man.
I remember that, but she was on like the Friday, like in one of the Friday movies. Is kind of what I'm remembering her from. But in any case, Kim, she's beautiful. I'm sorry that I don't know your last name quite, but there was a clip of her talking about her raising her son, and how, some of the things that how her parents taught her, like she's doing it with her son, whether, they're good or bad. But she was saying like, well, I parent my child the way that I was parented because I feel like I'm okay. Like I turned out all right. So, it must work. It must have worked, whether it was positive or negative. And that just made me think about my own parenting with my own child where.
Okay, wait, pause.
Oh, go ahead.
What, real quick, because we're going to do her some
right,
justice.
Listen.
Beauty Shop, my brother and me, Sparks, The Parenthood, Married with Children, Moesha, That's So Raven, The Parkers, My Wife and Kids, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Next Friday. She's done a lot.
Yes, super funny.
Super funny. And the show is actually called Raising Whitley, because she was talking about how her son is sort of raising her.
Yes.
So, okay, super but funny. Back to what you were saying.
Yes, shout out to her. I love her. She's so cute. But yeah, I think that she said another thing, and I'll touch on that after we talk about this, but this was the first thing that I picked up on because I'm a parent, obviously. And that's true. I think sometimes we parent how we were parented, whether it's good or bad. And I think when we pick up on those negative traumas of how we were parented, At least for me, I think that's where the wisdom comes. Like I recognize that, like, oh, well, I remember how this made me feel, so I don't want to impart this on my child. And not saying that my mom was a terrible mom. I would never say that. You know, my mom parented how she was probably parented as well. Especially for the fact that she lost her mom so early. So now I have to figure it out. Like I don't even have an example because I have to learn as I go. But and then for me, you know, my mom had daughters and I have a son. So it's like I have to learn now as I go as well because my mom didn't have a boy. So this is all like kind of new territory. But I know just some things that, you know, things that were said to me, like, oh, like you lazy, or like just words that kind of feel traumatic to me that were said to me as a kid. Like I try very hard not to say those things to my son, because I don't want him to then turn around and go and live out those words, like become those things. So I think when she said that, I was like, that is true. And you know, I feel like I did turn out pretty good. My mom did a great job doing it by herself, not really having a lot of advice or somebody she could talk to about being a parent. But that just makes me think about that. And I think the wisdom comes in when you remember how you felt growing up with your own parent, and then you turn that around for your own kid. And that's totally what I've been doing. So, you know, I don't want to tell all my son business. He'd be like, you tell everybody all my business.
Poor kids, they got no privacy.
Right. None. But me and him had a really good talk this weekend. And I'm knowing that just talking to him, like, you know, I feel like for my generation growing up, like you didn't have the voice to counter your parents or give them like, okay, well, this is what I was trying to say, or, you know, have your own thoughts. Like you mind the adults and whatever they say you need to do.
And you don't ask no questions.
And you don't ask any questions about it, which, you know, I do want my son to recognize like no means no and yes means yes. Like I feel like as a boy, especially, like he needs to understand that when I say no, that's what I mean. Like you can't keep going back and forth with me. However, I do want him to question some things like, well, you know, if I'm talking to him about his grades and he's like, okay, well, I'm trying to do the work and my teacher is, you know, doing X, Y, Z. So I'm allowing him the opportunity to give his side of the story and not just saying, okay, well, this is what I'm telling you need to do. Like I need him to be able to bring some facts, come with the whatever to prove your case to me that, you know, you are doing what you need to do at school. And just so that could build his communication. Well, nobody's going to tell you that one thing is the end all be all way to it. Like you have your own thoughts and ideas about it as well. So I think just those things that I'm learning, that's a little different from the way that I was raised. And that's that wisdom, because I want him to be able to articulate and be able to explain himself. If there was ever a case where he needed to do that
and advocate for himself.
and advocate for
because
himself.
When he gets into the workforce, right, he may need to do that when it comes down to his salary,
absolutely,
his workload or whatever, right?
And
whatever it is, you want him to be able to what, okay, you said 70,000, that was nice, but I'm saying
exactly,
you know,
this is what I'm telling
right?
you, and this is why I'm telling you I deserve that.
Exactly.
Which is, I think, you know, he's learning those skills now by being able to talk to me. And, you know, we have some uncomfortable conversations where when I was his age, like I did not have these conversations with my mom at all. It was just like, okay, I'm not going to tell her because this is too embarrassing, or I think she's going to be mad. But, and even for him, like he was honest, like I don't particularly like talking to you about these things, but okay, we going to talk about it. So we kind of got through it. So that all happened this weekend, but it's definitely opening my eyes as a parent. Every day I feel like I'm learning new wisdom and new things from my own childhood, where I'm just like, okay, let's try to flip this for him, because he's not me. Like he's not Chanel, he's not a girl. Like I have to tailor my parenting specifically for JR and what that looks like for him. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So that stuck out to me. That was a good conversation. And it's so funny because Kim, when she kind of had an aha moment, I think that's what the clip was called, like an aha moment. And she was really like stunned. Like, I cannot believe that that's the way I'm interpreting this. She was like, I've never said this before. Like I never had this conversation about how I parent my son is very similar to the way that I was parented. And I think a lot of parents might go through that, but the wisdom in it is, how do you tailor it for your kids and not the trauma that was inflicted on you?
Right. And she also was saying, you know, what you said earlier, which is, well, I turned out fine, right? And I think that that's what we think a lot of times, but what did you have to go through to come out fine?
Exactly.
Right. And it doesn't mean that we should just put that on our children, right? So some of it just isn't necessary. But you have to be aware of it first, right? Yeah.
Sure do. And the fine could be like, I've lived with anxiety and I didn't even know what it was. Like you weren't able to name those things because you just didn't know what you didn't know. And now that you do, it's like, okay, well, I don't want my kid, I guess the popular saying now is to like get stuff out, get it out of the mud. Like, no, I'm gonna tell you right now so that you don't have to struggle or go through those unnecessary feelings of trauma or unworthiness or whatever the case may be.
And you know, I think as a people, we, for whatever reason, really glorify this out of the mud because we think that that's like, we like almost revere it. It's like we praise it, but it's like, what did you have to get out the mud?
Exactly, because I don't want to actually.
Who was enabling the daggone mud? Because somebody put mud in front of you, you know, in some cases.
How do we rid the mud? I want the mud gone.
I do think that a lot of times, even like, you know, a lot of, not all of, but some successful Black people will be like, well, I had to do all of this, so you got to pay your dues, type of thing, right? But it's like, or did you pay dues for all of us?
Yeah.
Thank you for the dues that you pay.
Right. We appreciate
open the door for me.
Please open it and leave it open. Like,
leave that, you know, go ahead and put the door stopper in there, because look,
actually take the door off the hinges.
Let's demolish the door, because the door is a facade to begin with.
We don't even need it.
Okay, the white people don't even have a door. Y'all, you had to break through the door. Thank you, in the ceiling and whatever. Cool. Now that you broke through, it no longer exists. But for whatever reason, we keep reestablishing and recreating these ceilings and these doors because we think that, okay, because I had to suffer, you ain't real unless you suffered. And that is crazy. So ingrained in our community. Even like, you know, even, and, you know, shouts out to our moms, because they were single moms and they were doing the absolute best that they can, and they did better than we could have ever done.
Amen. Yeah, shout out to our mamas, y'all the real ones.
To them. Okay. But I think that a lot of times too, it's that's really glorified, and I think it should be celebrated as like, wow, you made $1 out of 15 cents. Absolutely, right? You are magic. But this is not the goal.
Not at all.
This ain't the goal right here. Right, like the struggling and the suffering, like like I get slavery, it's in us, it's in our history, but at some point it's got to stop.
Like why?
Okay, because let's not forget that some of those slaves jumped in the sea. They said, I'd rather die. Okay, I'm in the sea, the liquid gray.
Listen, death is better than this life, because it's a no.
It's a no.
Man, that we have to run that back, because that was like a whole sermon there.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like you know, that's what we do, and that's why it's so important for me to, you know, mentor. That's why I adore my graduate students over at Whitewater, because I get to mentor them and tell them, no, you don't got to do it like this.
Please,
you can do it this way. You can do that way. Make sure you do this, because it's gonna show up better for you down the line.
Yeah.
Because some of those things were given to me, and some of those things I did learn from people. You know, when we have these experiences, it shouldn't just count for us.
Yeah.
It should count for the circle. It should count for the crew, the clique, whatever you call yourselves, the village, whatever, the tribe,
everything.
It should count for everybody, because a lot of the suffering is really unnecessary.
That's a word.
It's like sometimes it's self-induced, because sometimes we also think that if we haven't suffered, that we don't deserve it.
Yep.
Sometimes we think if we don't suffer, we haven't earned it, because we think that the earning or what
it comes from it, like
what
that's
entitles us to the thing is the actual burden of something. And sometimes that's not true. And I myself too, I struggle with that as well. My mom, when I was young, she worked several jobs, you know, like my mom was never not working. And even when she was at home, she was always cleaning, because, you know, she's a neat freak child. So she was always cleaning, she was always cooking, she was always coming, she was always going. My mom was never resting.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I'm not doing something, I feel like I'm late.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and that's why sometimes I will sign up for a million things. I'm like, I'm gonna mentor these kids over here. I'm gonna be a part of the AKA. I'm gonna do this at work. Then I'm gonna do this other thing at work. Then I'm gonna do this with the friend group. And I'm like, because if you're not busy, if you're not doing something, then you are lazy.
That means you're lazy.
You know, and my mom never said that.
Yeah.
But remember, communication is only 8% verbal.
Yeah.
She said that non-verbally to me.
It was her action.
Now, it was her plight, right, that made her have to do all of that. But that is something that I felt like I learned. And Brittany and I had a conversation maybe a few months back about the whole idea of feeling lazy when you're not doing anything. But sometimes you just need to not do anything. Because you're a human being.
Yeah.
You need to recharge and to refocus and to recenter. And that's just as important as all the work. And your rest enables the work. So
it does. I agree. And I think a lot of us, and I could be wrong, but I do feel like a lot of us felt like that during the pandemic, like to be forced to stop and shut down gave a lot of people like, they just could not handle that. They couldn't handle stopping.
Honestly, so when the break happened, so I felt bad for everyone who was suffering with COVID and all the deaths and everything like that, but it gave me an excuse to break.
Yeah.
Because I think for like 9 or 10 months, I didn't travel. I didn't go anywhere. And, you know, after a while, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, right. Same.
Let's do it. But initially, it was like, I'm not lazy. This the world. You know, the this is something that happened. It's inhibiting me from being as productive as I would normally be.
Yeah, which is funny that it's funny that you have that experience of like standing still gives you the mindset that, oh, this must be lazy. But then for the pandemic, the world having to stop, like you turned it like, well, it ain't me. The world is.
Yeah, because if I break, then that's me being lazy.
Yeah. But the world, I don't got no control.
But if I cannot be productive,
hey, I'm not.
Then it's cool. But so your girl got all her rest.
And you're not wrong. But a lot of people just could not handle stopping. Like they couldn't function in that the world needed to stop. And I think God has a funny sense of humor that I do think that it was very necessary for us all to take that pause. Because I think for me too, like at first I was just like, oh, okay, like it's cool, I'm at home. But then after a while I was like, okay, like I started to feel like that, like you're not doing nothing, like, you know, then you started to see all these memes like, if you in the pandemic, you're not making all this money, then you ain't doing nothing. Like you ain't doing it right. Like it was just like, come on, like it's a pandemic. It's okay if I didn't start a business or do anything. Like, so then I started to feel like, am I not doing enough? Like, should I be doing something? Should I start a business? Like, do I need to buy all this stuff on Amazon? Like I felt like I needed to do something. So I did get in that moment where it was just like, girl, it's okay to stop. It's fine. It's okay. And I think constantly having to tell myself, like, even if I get sick, like I have to remind myself, like, it's okay to lay down. Like, you're okay. Everything, you don't have to check these emails. And sometimes my boss will have to tell me that too, like, girl, stop responding to the emails. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So sometimes I have to talk myself through it, like you can stop and that's okay. So I think I'm glad Black people in general are focusing a lot on their mental health and you know, things like that, because I do think it is so ingrained in us that we can't even stop for rest.
We
have to keep going and going and going until we die. Because
remember when we were slaves, if you wasn't working, you're lazy.
You're lazy, and it's like, you're gonna die.
What a paradox it is to have slaves, to have free labor, to have a group of people build this country, and then for the rest of their lives have them labeled as being lazy. Like what a paradox that is.
Crazy.
But here we are. Here we are.
Oh
so of course we feel like if we're not being productive, and if you can't actually see the fruit of that productivity, we do feel lazy, right?
Yeah.
And then too, you know, people also feel like they should be able to do everything on their own.
Yeah.
You know, white women to go get a nanny like that. Black people be like, well, Big Mama, you know, she had 17 kids. She had not one nanny. Okay, and she struggled and she suffered and she died early. Okay, she had high blood pressure, hypertension,
everything,
okay,
diabetes,
Jesus,
gout,
all of it.
She had everything.
not gout, honey.
I'm just kidding.
No, but you know, I think that is what we do. Or like people, even like with people's marriages, they'll be like, oh, and my parents were married for 75 years. Yeah, and there were 17 outside kids.
Exactly.
You know, like
that they don't even talk about.
Your granddaddy was beating your grandmama, cussing him out every day.
Because we're not allowed to talk about grown folk business.
Right.
So
it's funny because I was watching a clip from Dave Chappelle and he was talking about how he was like, you know, he was talking about when the war was going on and all these women entered into the workforce, and he was like, all of a sudden you had women saying these new phrases like no. Right, because it's like, you know, some stuff is just like some of the stuff that people went through, you know, people will tell you part of the story but not give you the full context, right? And so, and the amount of suffering that came with it. So some people were like, that was cool that y'all been married for 75 years, but there was a lot of suffering and abuse in that that I'm saying no to.
Like, okay. No thanks. I don't even want that.
Same thing with people used to get a job and stay at the job forever and then retire. And now they're saying millennials leave every 2 to 4 years.
Yep.
Okay, so you know, that's beautiful and great that, you know, people were that loyal to a company, which by the way, I've been at mine for 10 years and every now and again, I'm like, should I just leave? I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Should I go? I don't know. Donnell Jones, I'm here. Where do I want to be? I don't know. I'm unsure. But I will say this, when people shoot their shots in my LinkedIn asking me to, you know, I'll be like, what you talking about?
Listen,
yes, I will show up and meet you. Yes, I can join the Zoom.
I can do that.
I can do that.
No, don't hurt to talk.
It don't hurt to talk. You know, because I need to confirm that where I'm staying is going to maximize my earnings and my long-term potential. And so, but how much money did people leave on the table by staying at one company for 45 years, 30 years, right?
And then sometimes dying before they can even enjoy retirement.
Exactly. And how hard did they work? Because they're saying that, you know, when people are leaving, so typically when you leave a company, depending on your industry, but in general, when you leave a company, you can increase your salary about 15-20% just from leaving, right? Because it's easier to make more money coming in than it is to get those incremental raises. Now, what I have discovered is that my job isn't very well at compensating me. So that's why I continue to stay. But I don't necessarily be looking, but when people be jumping in up in the inbox on LinkedIn, I'll be like, yes.
And you are not wrong to have those conversations.
Yes,
because, hey, you don't know what you don't know. So
you don't know what you don't know. And I'm not gonna stay here with blinders on.
Exactly.
I want to know how much am I worth out here in the market?
Exactly.
How much is this skill set worth out here in the market? Because if you're talking right,
hey, listen.
And it's not just about the money.
It's not.
There's other factors included in that, but your girl will leave if I need to, or I'll take it back and say, now look, this is what they're saying. Look.
Babe,
I'm just telling you,
your competitors said now.
Exactly.
So I need y'all to be like, what y'all gonna do now?
Exactly.
And you are not wrong. And that's invaluable. Like, I'm glad that you recognize your worth. Because there are so many people who don't recognize it and then they do stay. Well, not millennials, but you know. And they were staying, because I'm definitely one of them ones where I'm like, okay, my max is 5, but between like 3 and 5, I switch schools.
You'd be like, Control, I delete.
Yeah, like, okay, I got to move around now, because, and I'm the same way with housing too. Apparently, I counted the other day, like how many times I've moved, and I'm like, I really don't care. Like, if I'm unhappy, I'm leaving. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm out of here. But no, that's really interesting that's how it works. But man, yeah, rest is important, and it's okay to rest. And
yeah,
I think you got to take care of your body, because like I said, it's people that, like you said, have been working at companies for like 45, 50 years, and then they die. And then you don't even get to enjoy retirement. Like, me and my mom was just having that conversation of why she retired. She chose to retire. And she was like, no, like, I don't want to be like that.
I know, come through, mama.
Like, no, she was like, I want to be able to enjoy my retirement in my right mind and body.
Yes.
Being able-bodied to move around and live the life that I want to live. She was like, no, it's people dying, working on jobs. And it's like, okay, you die and they gonna post that job immediately after your funeral. Okay. That job will be over. Okay. Listen. So yes, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy out here.
Yeah.
But we know better.
We know better. Yeah. We think we do.
Right. We think we do. We're getting there. Every day it's a learning process.
Every day
we are definitely getting there, man. But no, and another thing that I was thinking about from the video, the Oprah video, which was super good. And I'm glad. It's funny because I saw another video that you posted in our group too about trauma. It was with Kevin Hart and Taraji, but we'll get to that. So I think it was like perfect timing that we dropped that episode because, you know, everybody was kind of talking about it. The conversation is totally happening surrounding trauma. And I'm thankful and I'm glad that people are recognizing the traumas that they had because it is so important. But another thing that Kim talked about that, again, I picked up on because it directly related to my life is just not becoming who people say you are. So she was talking about like how was it her mom that cut off her
grandmother,
her grandma. I was like, dang.
Her mother left the country and she was staying with her grandmother while her mom was maybe on vacation.
Okay.
And the grandmother didn't have time to do her hair and she had these cute little pigtails. Mm-hmm. So the grandmother's solution to that was to just cut them off.
Yeah, which was crazy. And that makes me think about another thing was just Black women hair in general, how we just cannot deal with our hair, which is a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I'm just like, yeah. And then her grandma cut her pigtails off and then her brothers were ragging on her like, oh, you bald head, you fat. And then she was like, in time, I really was bald head and fat. Like I became who they said that I was because I heard it so much. And that stuck with me too, because I just remember like growing up, you know, so my mom and my sister are like lighter skin. They not even that light. They like regular. I don't know.
Child,
but they're right. They're not that light. But growing up, I was darker than they were. So people would always be like, oh, you're adopted, or, you know, my sister would make fun of me, like you burnt cookie, or like hearing all of these things. And that stuff, like thinking about it, and I'm a Capricorn, so I do be like, okay, I don't care. But in hindsight, like I do really care. Like it came out in some way where it's just like, maybe I'm not that cute. Maybe I don't look like them. So it's just like the things that you say, especially to children who are impressionable and they're trying to learn the world as they go, can stick with them. And then, you know, how do you come out of that? So I'm glad there's this like revolution of melanin and how beautiful, you know, different skin tones are, not just dark ones, but variations of skin tones, and just being Black is beautiful. So I'm glad there's this uprising of that again, similar to what we saw in the 70s of Black is beautiful, and, you know, I'm Black and I'm proud. But I'm thankful for that, because there was a time, you know, when I was in middle school, like I did not think I was cute. I thought I was a burnt cookie and I was too dark, and, you know, I was one of them kids where I'm like, I can't be in the sun because I'm gonna get too dark. And now it's funny because I'm an educator, so when I hear other kids say that, like, oh, we got to get in the shade, like I'm gonna be too Black, and I'm like, you're beautiful. Like you are one of the special people that can absorb this vitamin D. Is gonna give you strength. Like it's for your skin. Like this is beauty. So I'm always trying to encourage our kids, you know, that being Black, or, you know, if they say like, oh, that person is Black, and I'm like, well, Black people come in different shades of brown. Like it's not just Black, and, you know, they think of that as like this negative color. So yeah, just trying to take that trauma that I had inflicted on me and kind of flip it now for my kid and the kids that I work with, to let them know that Black really is beautiful. So that made me think about that.
Yeah, you know, Pastor Melva said, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words cause permanent damage, right?
Sure do. They do. Years later, you still be like,
that's what she said. But yeah, I agree. I think that she was traumatized. I think she was heavily traumatized by that, and it was her own brothers, right?
And then for your grandma to cut your hair, like what?
Yeah, that was foul.
Yeah.
But, you know, grandma was thinking about, you know, I gotta take care of all these kids now. I ain't got time to be messing around with your hair. Give me them scissors. Right? But she did. She said that her hair actually never grew back, and she said that she did. That she struggled with weight all of her life, and she was just like, you know, before then, neither of those things were even an issue, but it became that because my brothers, who are supposed to love me, chose to tear me down with their words. So yeah, and I think that I agree, right? If you hear people saying negative things about who you are as a person, what you physically look like, really it says more about them, right? It says more about them and about how they feel about themselves and what they think about Black melanin, it says more about that, but they are certainly projecting it onto you. And but unfortunately, as a child, right, and even sometimes as an adult, you don't necessarily perceive it that way. You may not have the wisdom to say, like, okay, they're projecting this on me.
Yeah.
Right. But you take it, especially if you hear it several times or if you hear it from multiple people, then you may accept it as truth and then you become that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because now I'm unworthy.
Yes.
Now I'm unlovable. Now I'm right. Like you just, you internalize those things. And it does take a lot of wisdom and strength to delineate between those feelings and to figure out what you need to keep and what you need to give away.
Yes. And it's so, and I think that's a little bit too why I'm so complimenting people as well, like, because I never want anybody to feel like, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna sit on this podcast and act like I don't rib, because I do. If you're from Milwaukee, you know what ribbing means.
I mean, you ribbed me a couple weeks ago. Now I was roasted, okay, roasted.
I cannot. But yes, we rib, and I come from a household of ribbing. But I think that's another set of trauma. Like, why are we talking about each other? But But in my family, like, you had to know how to rib. Like, you had to be a part of the crew to rib each other. But I think that too is in part why, especially for my son, like, I'm constantly telling him, like, oh, you're so handsome, or this looks nice on you, or trying to build up his confidence in any way that I can, because the world can be cruel. Your family can be cruel to you.
Family, your
own people can be cruel. So I definitely try my best to watch what I say. And sometimes, I do rib my son because I come from that family. But then I'm also like, okay, like, don't tell him that, because you're his mom and you don't want him to have that complex of, this is how I perceive myself.
Girl, he gonna start his own podcast as soon as he turns 18, talking about the trauma.
He probably will, because he will be like, you're always telling all my business. I'm like, who do I tell? You was like, you tell your friends, you tell Granny.
She does, child. I'm gonna tell you right now,
listen, I'm just
I'll be on the phone.
Okay? Hey, I'm just saying,
she clicks us in.
Look, it takes a village, son. So everybody got to be in the know.
She makes stories about it on Instagram. It's really bad.
It is bad, because I'm just like, look, I'm new to this parent game, so we all gotta help me. But yeah, I just think that that's so interesting how that happens. And when she was talking about that story, it definitely touched me deep, because I'm like, wow, like, it's interesting how Black, like, we're all Black, but we all have like this common background or common like threading of each other, which is so weird. That did we all like live in the same house? Like, it's all these like unspoken rules and things that happen to us. It might vary a little bit, but it's all very similar to being Black. So that definitely touched me.
Yeah, definitely. And the panel was made up of exclusively Black women.
Yeah,
so it was very unique to us, and that's one of the things that I love about us, right, is that we do have those colloquialisms. Like, we can have conversation, we can never meet, and we can look mean something. Like, yes. I can go anywhere and look, here I come back to Dave Chappelle. But there was a clip that I saw from him where he had talked about how he was on a plane and it was a terrorist attack, and he was like, it was only me and another Black guy on a plane, and we looked at each other and we did the thumbs up, and he was like, I knew what he meant and he knew what I meant. And he said, but the problem is the white person in front of me was like, oh, these Black people are going to try to save us. And he was like, oh, no. What we understand is we're not going to be a hostage in this situation, right, because Black people are not good bargaining chips. So he was like, he and I looked at each other like, we're safe.
We get
now, the rest of them sucks to be y'all. But this is one time where being Black is about to pay off, because ain't nobody going to call the White House like, yes, and I have 2 Black. And he said, hello?
They will hang up.
They will hang up. We don't care. Kill them. We've been trying to kill them anyway. So if you do it, then cool. Less blood on our hands.
I am crying. So, he is oh my God, I love Dave Chappelle. Like, just
big
amazing.
Fan.
Big fan.
I used to not like him though.
You said that, and I was just like, how, Sway?
I did not like him on the plane. I did not like him on the train. I did not like
him here or there.
I did not like him anywhere. Okay.
No, he was out.
But now I'm like, brilliant.
Brilliant. Encore. Man,
it's crazy.
He is, Dave Chappelle is funny, like just amazing. And it's funny because I think I saw a meme. It's like all these memes like in a Black household. So one of them was like, if you had to go to bed like 2 weeks early before school started to practice going to sleep before school, and I was like,
that's what Black people do. Yeah.
Like I was like, I thought I was the only one, but
no, moms across the world. And it's funny because nobody's having this conversation, but it just happened. I don't know, because I think that the parents are like, okay, I got to get you into this routine. How do I do that? I got to break your pattern that you have now. And they say it takes 14 days to start a new habit. So go your butt to bed. Starting now, you like, but school ain't even done. No. We ain't got time because we can't miss a beat. I got to go to work. You got to go to school. I ain't got time for you to be late. Ain't nobody dropping you off late at school. I don't want to get no calls. Cabs ain't finna come get you. Get your butt in bed.
Looking at my Gucci, it's about that time for you to go to bed. I was dying because I'm like, that just is a Black thing. Like we all was on the same page with you got to practice going to bed before school. Like what? Hilarious. I love it though. So yeah, I think those things, that those common threads that we all have together.
And I think I had shared one on the last episode, but I had talked about how I had this weird dream. I don't think I told y'all what happened in the dream, but I ended up calling Lori, and I'm gonna have her come on the podcast.
Yay!
One time. She did say she would come, but I never followed up, so it's on me, guys. But in any case, she is a dream analyst. So basically the whole thought is that when you are in your waking state, you get to sort of filter your own thoughts because you want to believe something, right?
Okay.
And you don't want to believe something. So you will take reality and sort of manipulate it to fit the narrative that you want, right? So even if and no, I don't need to give no examples. Y'all know what that means. And so when you're sleeping, you don't get to do that because you are not conscious.
Yeah.
So your thoughts are just free flowing, and it's more representative of what's actually going on. But because your dreams don't have words, they just show them to you in pictorial fashion, right? You just get to sort of experience them. And I tend to remember my dreams a little bit more, maybe because of Lori, I don't know. But I try to pay attention to them because I'm trying to once I saw this episode that Lori did on the Mel Robbins show, where she talked about dreams, I was like, okay, I need to wake up and pay attention, right? Because and she also says that, you know, people say, oh, let me sleep on it. She was like, that's because when you're sleeping, literally you get to have sort of this pure thought versus allowing your own filters to sort of manipulate what you're viewing in your waking life. And so I had this weird dream where this was like, I don't know, over a year ago, but I had this weird dream where I was at my ex-boyfriend's house. So we both lived there, but it was really his house.
Yeah.
And he came to the house and I came outside and he was like admiring the house.
Yeah.
The house is, I mean, you did a good job. You really fixed up the house. Wow, this looks like this. And I was like, thank you, blah, 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 blah. Then, so that was like a really old ex-boyfriend, but then a newer ex-boyfriend, ex-boyfriend 1 and ex-boyfriend 2.
There we go.
So then a newer ex-boyfriend comes to the house and he's like distraught and he runs up the stairs of the porch and he's like, my brother died. And I'm like, so I'm trying to keep him from going in the house. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I don't remember what I say to him, but I like usher him off the steps. And I think I walk away with him. And then later I'm in the house and my mom is there and my pastor is there and he's like giving her all of this money. It was kind of weird. I was like, what is she doing? Why is he giving her all this money? Like, something's not right here. Right. What's you and the pastor got going on? This ain't okay. But Lori was like, no, your house is really you.
Okay.
And she was like, the reason why you see this ex-boyfriend in the house is because of that was a really pivotal time in your life, right? All those years ago. And he's admiring the house because he's saying that you did a lot of work on yourself. And I was like, oh, that's cute.
Okay.
That was
okay.
Nice. Cool. And then she was like, but you didn't let him in the house though, right? And I was like, no. She's like, cool.
Good. Right.
She was like, because if you did, I'm gonna take back everything I just said.
Now that ain't even the analyzation. Right. No, I'm gonna take it back. Oh wow.
Right. I was like, no, didn't
crack it. Okay, so you passed.
Right. And then I was like, but then the ex-boyfriend comes and he runs up the stairs and she was like, did you let him in the house? And I was like, no. And she was like, this dream is trying to tell you about boundaries. And I think I told you guys in the last episode, she was like, this is how people manipulate you. You create a boundary, they play off of your empathy and they will say anything, even somebody's about to die or somebody did die.
Oh, okay, because he said that my brother died.
He said my brother died. Because she was like, people try to play off your empathy to get you to go against your own boundary. And she was like, did you let him in the house? And I was like, no, I did not. And she was like, good. And she was like, but I need you to remember that is manipulation.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
wow.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely have to have her on the show.
So I was just like, that's so interesting. And this is why I like the analyzing the dream, because it's I have talked to a therapist before and they'd be like, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
I'm here for you. What do you think?
Okay? Oh, you're training. You tell me. I'm paying you, bro. But shout out to all the therapists.
Shout out to them. Yes, all the great work that you guys are doing in the community. Love you. All that. That was
well,
real
you
nice.
asking me what I think. I don't know.
Right. But I think that, and I mean, I do think that therapists should challenge you to do, so I don't want to put that narrative out there. I just think that you can get there a lot faster by looking at your dreams, because it is what you really think.
Yeah.
Because when people ask you what you think in your waking life, a lot of times we will try to structure it to fit something that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Right. Or whatever the standard is that we're trying to fit, we will try to structure it so that it's okay and it's acceptable. And maybe that's not your truth. But in your dream, it just is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And so,
wow.
And so I was like, okay. And I was like, now why is my pastor giving my mama money? Like,
right,
what the heck
did
is
that
going on
mean?
here? Right. And she was like, he's restoring value. Money is valuable, right? It's and your mom is just another version of you. She's saying that you developed, right? You have changed, you have grown, and you have restored your own image of your own self-worth. And I was like, oh, that was cute.
That is.
Because I was like, why are two ex-boyfriends in a dream?
Right.
This is not good. I woke up like May Day.
So the house and the boyfriend, okay, I was like, okay. And then you not letting them in, I'm like, okay, I get it. But then the mama and the pastor, I was like, what?
I was like, something ain't right.
Like, why are y'all
something
here?
Ain't right. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was about to make a report.
Right, like what is really going on? Because my subconscious had said, like, this is what happened. But no, that's, man, we have to have Lori on the show. I think that would be super dope because I never remember my dreams, which is crazy.
Yeah, I'll be trying to. But then, a more recent example of this is, so at my organization, in the past, I was the president of the African American Business Employee Resource Group. If you work for an organization, you might have something like that, depending on what industry you're in. But in any case, that was years ago. I have stepped down. I did it for like 3 years, stepped down. Other things have transpired. And then basically the messaging that I provided was basically, this is part of the broken system. Right?
Yeah.
This right here is part of the broken system. This is something that the organization needs to own, that they need to invest in, and they should not push it off on other marginalized groups to do the work for it, or to do the work for the organization and make it look very showy, do this whole dog and pony show as if you are truly diverse and inclusive, because you're not.
Yep.
So then the GM had the nerve to ask me to do what I did.
Oh Lord.
She was like, I think with your network and with this and this and that, I think blah, 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 blah. And here's the thing, is that I do care about the Black employee base. There's not a lot of us. We are spread very thin across different sites, different locations, different states, everything. And most of them are actually in the, a lot of them are actually in, what am I trying to say?
The plants?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
A lot of them are actually direct labor in the plants.
Yeah.
So, and I care and all of that. And she was absolutely playing. So I was like, well, let me think about it. And then I went and thought about it. And I was like, hold on, didn't I say no?
Oh,
didn't I say no? And didn't I tell you explicitly why? And then you had the nerve to come back
and played on your
empathy. Played on my empathy.
Yes, that's crazy.
I said the most professional hell no email that you have ever seen. Okay, I said I'm talking the most professional hell no that you can imagine.
Listen. Oh my God!
I was like,
it played out like directly, like the
well, she told me, she was like remember this formula, like you set a boundary, and so it kind of helped me identify when people are trying to manipulate me. Because if you call, I'm not gonna ever say like, oh, he tried to manipulate, because if you say that to them, like, no, that's not the intent. Yeah, that's what it is though, right? So it is what it is.
Dang.
It is what it is. So that's where that served me. That is the post-traumatic wisdom, is that I have become better at identifying it. Now, I wish I would have identified it in the moment so that I could have given her my verbal hell no.
Hey,
but since I was a little delayed,
it's okay.
Which is why sometimes it's good not to say yes to things on the spot right away. It's good to just kind of take a moment and reflect and think about it. But it certainly allowed me to be like, this is the exact formula. And I mean, and I've seen it play out in different, personally, professionally, blah, blah, blah. But the most important thing for me is to identify it so that I can address it appropriately and stick to the no. Because you're trying to get me to move my boundary. Yeah. My boundary doesn't move.
It's a no.
It's a no.
That's not a word I just learned.
Exactly.
It's been there. Wow. That's crazy how the body it's trying to protect you. Like your mind
and the crazy thing is that at the time that I had the dream, there was another situation going on, and it played out exactly like that. Like, and I was like, because I was trying to ask her, I was like, is my dream, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it like personifying, or not personifying, but is it
a projection?
Is it like intuitively telling me what's going to happen in the future? Like, this is crazy.
Like foreshadowing.
Yeah, is it like foreshadowing? Thank you.
Wow.
Help your girl out, child. Thank you. But and she's like, yes and no, right? Like, it's telling you that this is the space that you're in, and if you are dealing with somebody that you are very familiar with, your body's telling you that your body knows this. Yeah. Your mind just has not accepted it. So it's not necessarily foreshadowing. It's telling you that this is this person's pattern. This is what they do. And your body is just bringing it to your foresight. It's literally trying to show you what you keep refusing to see. And I was like, well, first of all, Lori, get out my business.
Listen here. Like, I feel attacked right now. Lori. I'm just saying, because you all in my business.
All in my business. But, when your own dream, when you're telling yourself something, you got to accept it at this point. Wow. When you're telling yourself something in your own dream, when your own body is telling you something that you keep refusing to see, it's like an internal battle almost with yourself, then you have to make a conscious decision. Either I'm going to deliberately go against what I know to be true, and am I willing to accept what comes with that? Or I'm going to do what I know to do.
Exactly.
So, so that, but it's crazy how many times I see it now. Wow. And the other thing that I feel like post-traumatic wisdom, because, I feel like there's so many times when we're being disrespected, right? And we don't always see it that way, because a lot of times it's like microaggressions, right? But Same, almost similar to the boundaries, but it's like whenever you say no to somebody, or for me, when I say no to someone, I try to make it look, feel, and sound like no.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't want any confusion. Yeah. Right. So I'm verbally say no. I'm gonna say no by me physically not being there. Yeah. Right. I'm gonna say no by me not engaging in whatever it is that I've said no to. Because I would hate for you to ever think that I meant yes.
Yeah, my no meant yes.
So I'm gonna make it real. I'm gonna make it very clear. But people will try to make you feel guilty for saying no.
Yeah.
And crazy. They'll step over the boundary and try to get you to negotiate your no or to flip your no to a yes. But my no is actually not negotiable.
Yeah.
Right. So I said no. It looks like no. It feels like no. And it sounds like no. Because why? Because it's a no. But then it's like, well, you could have at least done this. Actually, the least that I could have done was nothing because I said no.
Yeah, the least I could have done was told you no, like I've done.
And that's done.
And
so next.
Past that part. So
that.
Now what? Yeah. Like we're just gonna keep looking at each other because my answer is no. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get my son. Because I feel like I'm trying to get my son to understand that no means no, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that.
A lot of people don't understand.
No means yes, no means
maybe,
no means I'm not sure, but no is a complete sentence.
Or they'll try to tell you, I don't think you really meant that.
Right.
Well, you can think whatever you want.
Hey,
that's cool.
But again,
hey, if you look at all the facts, what I've said and what I've done, it equates to no.
Yes, my words and my actions both say no. So that's where we are. Man.
Yeah. And so I think that what I've learned with that is to less is more. Less is more, right? Say the no, and again, make sure that everything aligns with it, and then don't engage.
Yeah.
Oh, you could at least, or maybe what if you just a little, no. And that's it. Because when I think about it, I don't do that to people. Right. Like if somebody say, I'm not coming, I'm not gonna ask you why. I'm gonna be like, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. I hope everything's all right. Yeah. Like you need anything, but I'm not gonna be like, well, did you do this? Because you do this, or what if you did? Or at least like I'm not about to negotiate. I heard what you said.
And it's a no.
And that's
no. Okay. And that's fine. Like I don't know why people get so sad about no. Like
but what it taught me about myself is that I don't say no a lot. So then when I do, people it hurts. Yes. It's not being received.
Yeah.
It's not understood. So it's like, well, she couldn't have possibly have meant that because she doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But I do what I say. And I think that that's what needs to be remembered, right? So it's like maybe I don't say no often, but I do always do what I say I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So if I said no, that is literally what I meant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So so now I'm like, I don't know, should I just throw out no's occasionally just to mix it up? I don't know. Just here and there, just so that, people aren't too shocked and appalled or what.
Maybe so. You just gotta practice getting in your normal vocabulary.
And that's what I was thinking too about going back to the gym. Maybe the thought was, well, she did it before. Yeah. She knows she could do it. She obviously cares. When we asked her before, she said yes, and then she did agree to stay on for another year. So, but see, people ask for an inch and take a whole foot because I've already served my time.
They do.
I stayed an extra damn year.
Yeah.
I have said no, right?
Listen.
So I think that I think that it's just about less is more, and just saying it and sticking to it, and then realizing that how they interpret it and deal with it, and they try to guilt you into it, that's on them. Mm-hmm. They can deal with it and process it however they choose. It's actually none of my business.
Yeah. So they ain't got nothing to do with me.
My business is when I said no, and then that's where it stops.
Hey. And that's all.
That's it.
And that's all that matters. No, that was, I feel like that was like 3 episodes all in one. But I'm so interested to talk to Lori. I hope we could get her on. I think that would be so dope to get her on our show to interpret dreams, or lack thereof in my case, because I do not ever remember my dreams. And I feel like it's that because I bury things so much that my mind is just like, nope, you're not gonna do it.
Well, she always says that we actually have several dreams throughout the night. And one of the keys to remembering them is to not move. So when you first wake up, replay it in your head. Like, don't move out of the position. And she's like, if you move out of the position that you're sleeping in, then it's almost like unplugging your dream. So like the second that you shift positions, you're like less likely to remember. So
and maybe that's
what I used to do was like the ones that I called her about, I would wake up, not move, and I would leave myself a voice recording just saying everything that I remember.
Okay.
And then when I would call her and talk about it, some of the stuff I still wouldn't remember. I'd be like, I don't know why I'm here. This doesn't make sense. Maybe this is 2 dreams. Maybe it's one. I don't know. Because all of a sudden, then I'm here, you know.
That's so crazy.
But if you replay it, and the more you replay it, then the more you'll remember. So I would like say it again, and I'm like, oh, and also blah 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 blah, and oh, and also, you know, like I remember I told you I had a weird dream and you were there.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
But actually, in a lot of my dreams, certain people show up at different times. Like there's a lot of them where my brother just pops up, like out of nowhere. He ain't been nowhere in the dream, but then at the end he's there. And she was like, so she'll talk to you about what different people represent to you and what they mean to you. Because even like you can have a famous person show up in your dream. And it's like, well, what do you think of when you think of Dave Chappelle?
Right.
Like what comes to your mind? Okay, well, this is the purpose that it serves in this dream. So like my brother, he'll usually show up and he's like helping me do something. Like it'll be like in one dream he came and helped me clean up. And I was like, he ain't never came over my house to clean up.
This ain't what he would do.
Right. He would do this. He'd be like, okay. He might come over and talk to me, but like he ain't about to clean. But she was like, she always says like, oh, when your brother is in your dream, he's giving you advice. He's here to help you. So like he's here to, you look to him for guidance, you look to him for advice, type of thing. So that's the role that he's usually playing in the dream. So she's like, what is he saying? What is he saying?
That's so
and then like him cleaning was like a metaphor, like metaphorically
cleaning something, like because he's fixing or helping.
He's fixing and helping. That's what he always show up doing in the daggone dreams.
That's so interesting. But we gonna have to talk to her because I feel like mine, I just be black. Like I don't see anything. I don't remember nothing.
Listen, what else was I asleep?
Listen, and sometimes I wake up like that. Like, am I asleep? And I just think that that's just me because I'm just burying stuff. So it's like, no, you can't come out thoughts and feelings. So but I'm gonna talk to Lori about that. Like, why?
You'll be surprised who shows up in your dreams. Like I have read people like from high school show up and I'm like, I haven't talked to this person in forever. Why are they even here?
I wanted her to unlock my dreams. Well, I too can remember. Because wow. That'll be a great show though.
Do you have any dream that you ever had that you remember?
Like in my whole life? Yes. Yeah, like I remember now do I remember them? But I feel like it's been a couple years where I don't remember them at all. And I feel like just especially in this past year, like I think it's tied to just my emotions right now. Like I don't really cry. Like if I feel like I'm going to cry, then I kind of like push it out of my mind. Like I can't do this right now. So I think I'm blocking myself is what I'm doing.
So you're like, I don't want to cry. I don't want to dream.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it. Like I think that I've been doing a lot of that. So yeah. So that's another thing where she's gonna be like, girl, maybe you need to talk to a therapist.
I would say you probably are still having the
I am.
That you are, but you are, and I think when you wake up, you're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't deal with this. When you sit and think, then you would probably remember, like if you were to just pause. But you might just be trying to like move on, like, okay, let's get up, let's go to work. Where the kids at? Do this, do that. So
that is probably it, child. We're gonna be like, girl, we ain't got enough time to deal with it. It's like, what is
Lori's all I have told Lori some crazy dreams, okay? And I'm like, now Lori, don't judge me on this. And she's like, it's okay. She's like, look, I have heard it all, I have seen it all. I'm like, and I don't know why this would happen because I would never.
That is so funny. Yes, Lori, come see Brunch with Besties. We would love it. And our listeners I think that would be so tight. So yes, gotta get around. I'm excited about that. So stay tuned for that.
Any other post-traumatic wisdom?
No, those are my main two, like the parenting and just my own worthiness and not becoming who people said I was and making fun of me or just being negative. But those two things really stuck out to me. And shout out to Oprah and her panel of amazing women for even touching on that. I just think that it's great that Black women can come together and have those conversations about those things. So
yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's a ongoing process.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that for me, it's just committing to not become the thing that hurt you. So whatever it was that traumatized you or triggered you, it's just to, and then some of it can be self-induced trauma, like you did it to yourself, your own decisions, your own actions or inaction or whatever. So I think for me, it's just being really intentional about reviewing it and being like, okay, what did I learn from this and how am I going to use it to allow me to grow and how will I teach it? Because they always say that when you teach something, you learn it twice, right?
Yeah, so. Yeah, I agree. And then too, I think another tidbit for me is not using my trauma as like a badge of honor. Like, oh, this made me who I am and this made me so strong. But clearly in my case, being strong makes me not deal with the way I feel in my thoughts because I just push it down because I just want to keep going. So just not wearing it as a badge of honor. Like, no. I think we need to get away from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what goes in the to-go box?
Oh, dang. I think that was my to-go box. Like, overspoke. But yeah, like I think
we gotta come with a new one.
I know, right? But no, I definitely think the wisdom behind the trauma, I think that's how you don't wear it as a badge of honor. Like you recognize the trauma that you have and you grow and you learn and you heal yourself from that and not just holding on to the trauma to say, well, this made me the person I am. No, the healing is going to make you the person that you are. So I think that's what I'm going to take away.
I agree. I think my takeaway is that we have all been traumatized, just especially Black people, just as a people. We have just been traumatized and we have normalized the trauma so much that if other people don't cope in the way that we do, so if other people do pause and break and say, oh, I can't deal with this right now, literally some people will be like, well, my mom died and I was back at work on Monday. Okay, well, honey,
yeah,
this person is choosing to heal.
Yes.
So I think that it is a lot of work. I think that you do have to be deliberate and intentional about it, but I welcome everyone to continue the journey. And thank you guys for responding to our first episode about trauma triggers.
Yeah,
a lot of people identified with the chips as the coping mechanism.
They did.
And the eating. And some people said that it's traumatizing to even ask for help.
Yeah,
and that really stuck out for me because that too is traumatizing for me. I don't know if it's traumatizing. I think that is a result maybe of trauma.
Sure.
So I think that I will do everything I can not to ask for help. But if I actually ask for help and then the person like don't help me, then I'd be like, oh,
fall apart. Yeah, that's a trigger. Like,
like I'd be like, oh no, because I actually had to fix my mouth and ask you for help. Like, that means that I literally
I needed it. Yes, I absolutely needed you. Because do you know what it took for me to even ask?
Right.
Ooh. Yeah.
It means I'm tapped out. I've tried everything.
I've done all I can.
But yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Oh, if you want to send us questions or respond to this episode, click the link in our show notes.
Yes.
You can ask us anything.
Ask a bestie.
Ask a bestie. It's in there. It is a Google Doc. No, it's not. It's not a Google Doc.
It's a Google form. Yeah.
And you can send us an anonymous question, or you can put your name in there and let us know who you are. Thanks for tuning into Brush Podcast. Until next time.
Peace.